It's the 2nd or 3rd or 4th of October, and I'm just trying out this new card. I bought it for $10. I bought 2 of them, and we'll just see just how good it is. And I've got it on HD. I'll change that to a lower configuration in a minute.
But if you're stressed about little things and you're thinking that, you know, that will spiral you downward, you know. It's really
I'm feeling very good at the moment. Your massage and my chiropractor have done me well.
I haven't done this massage.
I'm feeling very good. I'm sweet. Well, in fact, I never even noticed my neck at all once. In fact, we're a bit frightened to go to the next meeting, like crick something wrong. But
when you come back and I so.
Story 1. The snake. As you know, the outback's full of creatures of all kinds, flora and fauna, and of course there are a multitude of snakes, from little grass snakes up to the huge pythons and so forth. Wonderful, colourful. Most of them are not poisonous, but of course there are a few deadly ones. But this is the story related regarding a snake that is part of a true story, because my grandmother was over in Australia once when she was young, visiting there, and she was riding through the bush and a snake dropped around her neck, and it was rather frightening for her because she came from New Zealand where there weren't snakes. And of course this is based on that story. Anyway, get back to what I was talking about. Mick said to Pat one day, he said, Mick, have you ever tried snake? And Pat said, no, I don't fancy it. The Aborigines have it, but I don't fancy having it. All right, said Mick, one day I'll go out and I'll catch some, and you can try it if you want or not, doesn't matter. So anyway, he set off one day with one of those wire sticks. They're a special stick that you can actually make to capture snakes. He put them around their throat and you hold them on. Anyway, he made this stick and off Mick went. And down by the water hole, which is a lovely hole, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but he went down there where he knew there were going to be a few snakes. And they're mainly grass snakes down there. So he was there, and this day it was very hot and humid. He sat under this lovely shade tree. And the tree, it was a big tree, and he'd been there before, but he sat there and he waited for the snakes to come around. Unfortunately for Mick, however, there were other creatures in the tree waiting as well, and it happened to be a large python, which they later called Phil. And Phil was sitting up on the tree there, minding his own business, until Mick came along, and Phil thought, well, that makes a nice tempting meal. It's better than eating frogs all the time or the odd hare. So he quietly slithered down the tree and then all of a sudden dropped himself right around Mick's neck. Well, can you imagine a big snake coming around your neck? Anyway, poor old Mick, you couldn't see him for dust. He was off and back to the camp, yelling and screaming about what he had round his neck. And of course when Pat saw this, he laughed his head off, because they're not poisonous, these snakes, and as he unravelled this Phil around his neck. He laughed his head off, and of course Phil quietly slithered back into the rushes, into the bush, and was not seen again. And ever after, poor old Mick was laughed at by a lot of the people in the village about his neck scarf, and that of course was the colourful python around his neck. And anyway, that is the first story about our two swagmen, Mick and Pat. '585 the Panorama. There we go.